What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Marriage and Medicine. This week's video, we wanted to talk about some misconceptions about being a doctor that people commonly have and we commonly have to address on a regular basis. So I'll let Jasmine go ahead and kick it off here.
Yeah, so I tried to pick 5 of the most common ones that people think about doctors, or at least some of the common ones that we've heard throughout this journey.
Yeah.
So the first one is, this is in regards to like residency. People will typically ask, and it's my favorite question. They're like, oh, do you know what kind of doctor you want to be? Or like, do you know what specialty you want to go into? So like, for example, I've heard TJ say this a lot. Like he'll tell someone, I'm an emergency medicine physician or an emergency medicine resident physician.
Yeah, whatever.
And they'll be like, oh, that's awesome. So you're in residency. So do you know what kind of doctor you want to be? And
did you not hear what I just said?
Emergency medicine.
Yeah. I think ultimately people just don't know what residency is.
Yeah,
I think that's kind of the main thing. If you're not in the medical field, you have no idea what residency is. But surprisingly, like I still get it from like some nurses sometimes, like some techs sometimes. I'm just like, y'all should kind of know about this a little bit. But essentially, yeah, I think most people just don't know. And so kind of part of it is just educating and letting people know what residency is at baseline. Again, with residency, whatever residency you're in, whether it's family medicine, psychiatry, whatever, that's what kind of physician you're going to be. Now, from that, again, you can specialize in those kind of things, do fellowships, but ultimately, from a broad spectrum, that's the field that you're going into. So that kind of answers that question pretty easily.
Yeah, I think they get confused between, I guess, like medical school and residency. Like people assume it's like medical school, how when you're in school, you're not really a doctor of anything yet. Right. You're trying to still like get your schooling done and figure out what you like. Mm-hmm. Residency, yeah, you're training, but like you've already finished school and you are already a doctor. So it's not like, oh, I'm trying to figure out what I'm doing. Like I'm doing what I plan to do for the rest of my career. Yeah. So I think it's just confusion about all of that.
And if you have somebody that's in residency, please don't ever go up to them and say, oh, you're not a real doctor yet. Or when you finish residency, oh, now you're a real doctor. Like, no, we've been real doctors. We've been doing this stuff that doctors do on a daily basis. We're still just training under another supervisor, but we are doctors once you finish medical school. So yeah, just make sure you kind of keep that in mind if you're ever talking to somebody in that position.
Struck a nerve.
Yeah, we get it way too often.
Okay, the second one is that doctors are rich.
Yeah, doctors make a lot of money, we'll put it that way. But when you talk about rich, that's when you get into talking about your net worth, meaning...
And wealth.
And wealth, yeah. Assets versus your liabilities. So how much money you have versus how much debt you have. And unfortunately, there is a large percentage of doctors who are living paycheck to paycheck. And you might ask, how the heck is that possible? You're making 6 figures easily. And that's because people don't know how to manage their money. They basically inflate their lifestyle to the point where they're basically everything that they earn, it's going out somewhere, whether it's to the house, whether it's going on vacations, whether it's buying stuff. Money goes out very quickly, and that can kind of escalate. And what happens is down the road, there's 10 to 20% of physicians that are already at retirement age around 65 that have less than $500,000 saved up net worth. And like, that's ridiculous. Some physicians make that in a year. So how can you not have a net worth that's greater than that? But either way, there is 10 to 20% of individuals at that age group who just do not have the appropriate retirement. And those are individuals who continue to get burned out because you don't have the money to stop. You have to just keep working because you basically don't have the ability to retire the way that you're supposed to. So ultimately, doctors have the increased ability to be rich. But unfortunately, doctors also do not get the financial training that they need in order to know how to manage their finances a lot of times. And so that's one thing that's very important. We don't get that education a lot of times in medical school or in residency. So it's important that you get educated yourself when you're going to be getting that large sum of money coming in.
And I don't think people realize that not all doctors are paid the same.
Right.
Like different specialties get paid different amounts of money. So doctors in general do make very good salaries, but for example, an ENT doctor will make a lot more than a pediatrician will. Right. So it just depends also on what specialty you go into. It can make it a little bit more easier to I guess, save or, become a millionaire, depending on what your salary is. But it's not like all fields of medicine are not the same as far as pay.
Yeah, some are easier than others, but everybody definitely has the ability to easily become a millionaire and those kind of things if you manage your finances. I mean, you're going to be making, most people are going to be making over $200,000, kind of maybe on average. So you should easily be able to obtain an appropriate retirement with that kind of income.
Okay, the third one is that doctors get paid by Big Pharma.
Big Pharma, yeah.
By pushing vaccines or by trying to keep people sick instead of getting them healthy.
None of that makes any kind of sense. So as a doctor, we do not have those direct ties to making money off of any of those kind of things. That is all based from the corporation, from the higher ups, from the kind of business people that have nothing to do with medicine. In essence, we have no say-so in those kind of decisions or those kind of things from that standpoint. As a doctor, our oath that we took is to do no harm, essentially, and to make sure that we are doing what's best for the patient. We would never push anything that is going to, because we think that we will make money off of it. That's kind of just far beyond the truth. We don't make any direct money from any of that. Most of the time, we're getting paid off a salary, a lot of times anyway, and so we're not making any money off of that.
Yeah, I like that one because I'm like, oh, well, if we're supposed to be getting paid off of pushing vaccines, I think we're missing a check because,
at this point.
I don't get that. We don't get that check on your pay stub. There's nothing on there for that. So I'm like, we're missing out.
We do not get paid directly in that instance, but.
And I mean, generally, I feel like most doctors anyway, they go into medicine because they want to help people. They want to make people better. For the most part, sure, there might be a few out there that are just all about trying to get money or things like that. But generally speaking, doctors usually want to make people feel better and want them to have a better lifestyle as far as their health. So that's just kind of okay, whatever.
And if you're one of those people who are all about the money, your reputation is going to essentially come out and it's going to be seen that that's all you're about. And ultimately, it's going to negatively impact your patients coming in and those kind of things. So,
number 4, another misconception is that you have to major in any one of the sciences to go to medical school. So, chemistry, biology,
physics.
What's the other one?
Physics, math, all kinds of stuff. So,
I drew a blank.
Yeah, me too. For a second. Ultimately, that's not the case. So, we have had many people, for example, in my medical school, we've had people that majored in psychology. We've had arts, humanities, all that kind of stuff. People major in pretty much anything that they want to. The main thing in terms of getting into medical school is you do have to have kind of a basic, you have to take basic science classes. So you do have to kind of go outside your major a little bit and take a couple of the biologies, a couple chemistries and those kind of things. But it does not have to be your primary focus. And then of course you have to do well on the MCAT following that to kind of compare your science knowledge to other people who major in those fields to be able to make yourself competitive. But we definitely, in medical school, people look for kind of well-rounded individuals. They don't want everybody that they bring in to be a biology major or a chemistry major. They want to be diverse in that aspect. So if you do have an interest in something outside of science and you want to pursue that and you have the ultimate goal of still becoming a physician, you can definitely do that without any issues.
And we know people that have switched careers that were say in the military, and then they switched and decided they wanted to pursue being a doctor.
Right.
So that's possible too, career switching.
Right.
Last one, which isn't really a misconception because it is true, but doctors have the highest suicide rate compared to any other career.
Yeah, that's the one that's always tough to talk about, mainly because you get affected by it pretty regularly. You're always seeing news lines all the time, and a lot of this has to do with burnout. And burnout comes from many fashions. Part of it is just due to the workload itself. As a physician, a lot of people you get work pretty hard in some fields as well as in some kind of organizations, kind of based off of how it's structured. So that can be very difficult. A lot of times you have increased stress when it comes to kind of work-life balance. Again, that's because of how many hours you're putting in. And so that can lead to kind of marital issues and things of that nature, which increase suicide risk as well as just increase the amount of burnout that you have. And of course, the other things, the financial stressors, as we talked about earlier, if you're living paycheck to paycheck, even with this large salary, eventually that starts to wear and tear on you, and then increases those kind of risks as well. But,
yeah, for if you are a male physician compared to the general population, for males, they have a 70% higher risk of committing suicide compared to just like a regular male in any other career. And if you're a female physician, compared to like other females in other careers, you have a 250% increase of committing suicide, which is just like crazy.
Yeah,
so it's just, if you're someone that's in medicine, or even just married to someone in medicine, or like you have a family member, whatever, just that's something to always be aware of. Of course, like nobody thinks that it could happen to them or could happen to their husband or wife or whoever, but I think it's always something like you should be conscious of, and something that you should always kind of be aware of, to make sure you're checking in on your loved one, like making sure that they're still doing things that they enjoy outside of work, or that just that they're enjoying life, because it is stressful, especially with it being such a long journey between medical school and residency and fellowship and all kinds of stuff. And then you have family stresses, marriage stresses.
Just piles on.
So just always try to be there for whoever it is that you might know that is in a medical career. Try to check in on them, of course, and just be there for them. Like, there's no other way really to do it.
But yeah, so thank you guys for watching. Feel free to leave a like and please subscribe. Also, again, we have an Instagram page, Marriage in Medicine. Please feel free to, the letter N. Yeah, feel free to go and follow us on there as well. See you in the next episode.